Jiro here for Umbra Games with a review of Yakuza 0, available only on PlayStation 4 in the US. Yakuza is a series I've continued to collect, but hadn't ever made time to play. A few reviews ago, a subscriber suggested that I dive in. And while I intended to start with the PS4 remaster of the first game, Yakuza Kiwami, they instead suggested that I begin with the more recent Yakuza 0. I feel like there may be a few jokes and character connections veterans of the series might get that I didn't, but it also added some entertainment in that I didn't know who would survive and who wouldn't. Yakuza 0 is an open-world mission procedural game where you switch between two playable characters based on chapters throughout the majority of the game, with the ability to voluntarily switch between them towards the end. You have free reign to each character's city most of the time and can visit the shops and games and restaurants of Kamurocho, a red light district in Tokyo with Kiryu Kazama, and Sotenbori district of Osaka, playing as Goro Majima. The main story gameplay progression occurs by reaching checkpoints you can find on your minimap to access missions, as well as some of the game's lengthy cutscenes. Most story missions will include some combat, which takes place in an often closed ring-like environment with a set number of enemies and/or a boss. The battles take place in real time, and each character can unlock up to 3 unique stances, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. While fighting, you can use X to dodge, and the square button will issue basic attacks. The triangle button will do a heavy attack and is often used as a combo finisher, using square, 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 and triangle, for example. The circle button is used to grapple in most stances, where you can then continue to punch or throw your opponent. Yakuza also has what's called heat moves. You can see the bars under the character's life in the upper left corner that charges for different actions, including dishing out some damage. As time passes in a fight or you get hit, it will deplete. While these bars are filled, you'll see a flame icon in the upper right with the triangle button, indicating you're in a position to unleash a heat move, of which there are several. Which one you'll do changes by your location, like if you're near a wall or surrounded by enemies, or if your foe is stunned or on the ground. You can unlock new moves and combos by spending money on each stance's respective tree, unlocking nodes as you progress. Each stance also has 5 moves that can be learned from its various trainer that you'll meet also as the story progresses. There were some tight areas when trying to fight, or sometimes just walking through it, that provided some camera angle problems. And when you're in combat, you can use R1 to lock onto a target and do some stick relative dodging, but that too, with the changing camera, can breed a bit of frustration at times. You can find and buy pieces of equipment that offer bonus defense and grappling ability, and each character has 3 slots to equip. You can also obtain weapons which have a set attack power, but can only be used for a specific number of hits. As you roam the cities, you'll often find packs of attackers, with which you can engage in combat for cash, or choose to run away if you're tired of fighting. Combat can start to feel a bit repetitive once you've played with all the styles, since pretty much all moves are all combinations of square X number of times followed by triangle. Often the only thought you'll end up giving by endgame is which stance your environment and enemy will call for. In addition to spending cash for upgrades, there's also a currency called CP that you can exchange at a shrine for bonuses to each character. These unlocks include things like longer sprint time around the world map, more money from battles, and bonuses to your businesses, which I'll touch on here in a minute. CP is gained for nearly every activity in the game, including defeating a certain number of enemies in specific stances, running certain distances, and reaching milestones in the game's ridiculous amount of side content. Let's touch first on the side stories. As you roam the streets, you'll often be taken into small random cutscenes, overhearing NPCs that have issues or desires. Once the cutscene is over, you'll see an exclamation mark on the map where you can talk to that NPC and hear their story and agree to help them out or not. There's just something that feels so organic about this method of starting quests that really makes the city feel alive. I think the highest numbered story I saw was like 100, so yeah, there's a ton of content here. There was a gadget I obtained at some point that helps you find people in need, which I assume can be used by completionists to clean up the stuff you missed. Completing quests grants a few different types of rewards, most often including something immediately tangible, but also allows the pair to recruit for their respective businesses. I promise, I'll get there in a minute. Next, holy cow, the number of minigames. There's a bowling alley, gambling dens, arcades complete with full versions of Sega classics. There's karaoke and dancing and a paper, rock, scissors catfight club, slot car racing, fishing, and the list just goes on and on. You can earn cash through some of the games, and with others you'll be awarded CP if you can obtain a specific score in Outrun, for example. Another way to get CP is to eat every dish at a given restaurant. When the game begins, you can only eat when you're down on some HP, so while most dishes are on the cheap side, until you unlock the bottomless stomach, these won't come as quickly as you'd think. I love the difference in learning moves from each trainer. The Beast style has you smashing crates of money against mannequins to hit a target value in time. The Rush style has you go in 60-second bouts with no attacking, and if you take a hit, you lose. And the Brawler style you learn by engaging against more and more powerful hitmen. Again, just the organic nature of some of this side content is really well done. So the businesses. Kiryu ends up taking part in a real estate venture. There are 5 competitors, and you'll be able to wander around town and purchase most buildings in each competitor's district. As time passes, you'll be able to collect pay. Until you take over one of these districts entirely by getting the leader to come and fight you, you may have to go out and stop some of their minions occasionally by engaging them in a street fight. As you gain higher and higher percentages of their territory, you'll have cutscenes and battles before finally taking on your opponent in combat. This side quest was strangely addictive, and is enriched by the fact that people you've helped through other side stories may show up to be managers or security folks that you can assign to and pay for managing a district for each bar fill-up. You can also invest money into each building and recruit advisors to help boost the benefits of your investment for each of the different property types. Some buildings require you to befriend an employee and work that relationship meter up before you can obtain it. This is the best way I found to make funds to expand those stance skill trees. Now, Goro Majima is a cabaret owner who eventually gets into cabaret clubs on his side of the world. Here you find and recruit hostesses and play 3-minute bouts of managing tables, making sure hostesses' skills meet up with client specifications, and helping the girls out when they require assistance. Goro also has 5 competitors, and each takeover involves a club battle to see who can make the most cash the fastest. Your girls level up with each night you play, and you can even train the platinum level hostesses by engaging in conversational games and going out on dates. Yeah, you can even dress up the platinum ones to change some of their appearance skills. Goro has another main side quest of sorts, sending agents around the world to obtain materials and gear from which you can craft new gear once you obtain the recipes. Now, I'll be honest, at least on normal difficulty, I didn't see a need for this at all, since weapons only get about 20 or so hits before they're gone, and I had access to what seemed like a pretty decent shirt for defense fairly early in the game. You can keep quite a few consumables in your inventory, accessed by hitting the options button at any time, including in battle, which restore your health and heat. While the game does suffer from some of my least favorite game tropes, like the boss that keeps running away that you keep on fighting again and again, I found the story in Yakuza 0 to be really engaging. There are so many plot twists and turns, some you see coming and some you don't, that it kept me with it, even through its sometimes 20-minute cutscenes, just to see what happened next. The game is in Japanese and subtitled, so be prepared for some reading. Now, I'll admit I don't know a lot about the Yakuza, but the honor and consequence and punishments seem like there's something that could be very real. The diverse cast of characters and their motivations and backstabbing all played out very well as the continuing search for the owner of the tiny empty lot in Kamurocho, stopping a mass revitalization project, progresses. There's a bit of cheesiness in true Japanese fashion we found, some of it in a 70s kung fu style movie with loud exaggerated camera angles and shouting before combat, and how members of the Yakuza somehow have a line of easily ripped away suits. There's also quite a few quirky sexual situations, including awkward telephone calls, erotic videos that you can watch in clubs which amount to real videos of Japanese teens in bikinis playing with balloons or bubbles, and the awkward phone dating minigame. Again, this type of thing is optional, and the main story of the game is actually very serious in tone. All this time, we've been waiting for sequels to Shenmue, but Sega has been providing similar gameplay, and I apparently have just been ignoring it. Yakuza 0 provides a riveting story, an insane amount of side content, a plethora of great characters, combat that starts pretty diverse but can get a little stale, a pretty great open world with tons of Japanese culture and flavor, full of personality, and whether that personality is good or not will probably depend on your taste. Now, please always keep in mind, the score I give games is completely subjective, as up until this point in my videos I do my best to give you the facts and mechanics and less about my personal opinions. Also, this is my first Yakuza game, so a lot of these systems and content are pretty fresh to me. As such, rated as an open-world mission procedural game, Yakuza 0 hits an 81 out of 100 on my true 0 to 100 scale, where 50 is an average game. This is Jiro for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. Have a game you'd like to see me review? Send your tweets to @Umbra Games, and then be sure to subscribe here to get notifications of my new, most often, weekly uploads.